Hey, what's up, everybody? Man, I don't know what I'm doing here. It's Tommy. A couple weeks ago, we recorded a podcast, for La Vida Loca, right? We did the La Vida Loca cruise podcast, and there was a lot of comments like, "Oh, you guys have such good chemistry that you guys should do something on the regular." And here we are again. But I don't know. Like, I don't know where your head's at. Are you feeling like doing something on the regular?
Tony, any chance I get to talk a little cruising, especially with a fellow like you? I do agree with the people. I think we did have a pretty good chemistry. I mean, how long did we go for? It was like an hour and 20 or something like that, right?
It was a pretty good session. I don't know. I mean, well, I guess it is timed. I was going to say I didn't time it, but I mean, I think we went for an hour and a half, maybe.
Yeah. Well, especially nowadays, too, there's so much going on out there, and it seems to be getting kind of wild. And, I think the people appreciate it. You know what I mean? Two fellas like us who've been on a couple of cruises who do pay attention to the things and giving our little take about things. But I would love to make this a regular thing.
All right. Well, I think we make it a regular thing, and I'm not one to argue with the people, but I got no idea what we should call this, man. Like, I mean, everything has to have a name. It has to have a brand. We're a show. We're identity. We're in One Direction. Well, I don't even think maybe we could use One Direction. Didn't they break up?
Yeah, or maybe Two Directions.
Two Directions.
Yeah.
Port and starboard. That would be funny, like the Odd Couple. We could be port and starboard. Look, okay, this is only going to be available in video form. We're going to talk some cruising. We definitely have to, I think we both have some perspective on how you choose the correct cruise, because I think at the end of the day, that's the most important thing when it comes to cruising. If you want to have a good time, you have to choose the right cruise. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. But really, if anybody's watching this here on YouTube, thanks for watching, and help us pick a name. I do like port and starboard now. That's
be nice.
That's kind of,
please be nice, everybody. Jeez.
Oh yeah. Don't call it Fatty and the good-looking New Yorker with a sandwich shop. That'd be wrong. That would just be wrong. That's not cool at all. I don't like it. All right, you want to kick it off with current events? What's been swirling around in your brain when it comes to cruising over the last few days?
Well, you just got off a cruise, didn't you? This is a pretty significant cruise. I think it was this, what did you get off of just recently? The inaugural A, B, C, 1A? There was a few inaugurals, right? Which inaugural were you on?
So I'm super proud of Royal Caribbean because they've been popping their ships out early. So yeah, it's been making some people mad because they announced the sailings for Star of the Seas sometime, I don't know, last year. A bunch of people booked what they thought was going to be the first cruise. And then I think Royal popped like 2 or 3 cruises in front of them. I think I was on the second or third passenger paying sailing, but they still called it like a, showdown, shakedown at the OK Corral deal. I don't know what it was. It was just a little 3-day deal. They weren't giving any caveats. They weren't saying stuff wasn't going to be ready, and I think everything was good to go. But yeah, it was like a little 3-day shakedown. I think we got it through the casino, and I don't even know how much we paid, but it was an interesting thing. So my wife, the lovely Jenny B, was going to go with me, and then at the last minute, she decided she didn't want to walk around that big ship, and so we were able to add a third passenger, and my brother-in-law Steve went me, and then we no-showed Jenny, which is always fun at the check-in, right? Hey, here's my passport and my whatever boarding pass, and they're like, okay, are you checking all 3 of you in? Well, actually, no. It's just going to be me and this fine gentleman here. My wife's not coming. And so, yeah, we spent 3 days, 72 hours, any way you want to break it down, on the world's largest cruise ship. And then I mistakenly thought, and this is going to be completely a side tangent here, I thought that the Star of the Seas was the world's largest cruise ship by itself. But apparently I'm mistaken. Apparently they did not make Star of the Seas bigger than the Icon. Every ship in the Icon class is going to be the world's largest cruise ship. They're the same size.
So that is, of all the things, maybe the most historic that we've heard of. Royal Caribbean not jumping in on the opportunity to try to build its ship an extra 8 inches longer so that it can reclaim the title of world's largest cruise ship. Okay, so it'll be a tie.
Historically, that's what they've done, right? So the Utopia is the largest, just by a little bit, of the Oasis class of cruise ships. And I thought they would keep that up. But I do think it's a bolder move to be like, we've got 6 of the world's largest cruise ships. They're all the same size. So we're number 1 6 times, which sounds crazy to me.
I like it. No matter what I apologize, Icon class ship you're on, you are basically saying you're on the world's largest cruise ship versus saying, if you're on the Symphony, because you could say you're on the Symphony or the Oasis or the Allure. I'm not quite on the world's largest cruise ship, but I'm literally 8 feet away from being, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. So I think it's fine. Now it's a big tie, and we don't have to argue about it.
It was, dude, I tell you what, it had been about a year since I'd been on Royal. I think I was on Utopia back in 2024. And I think they win. I think they win when it comes to cruise ship innovation. That is by far the nicest cruise ship I've ever been on in my entire life. It was big in the most beautiful way. I think, didn't you get to do like a 1-day tour of the Icon of the Sea? So you've seen that.
I did.
That promenade on.
Yes.
I think I think I was talking to other YouTubers, Ben and David of all people. I was editing in the pub and they came by filming their ship tour, and I think it was one of them that pointed out that, hey, it's so wide in the promenade because there's no cabins there anymore. They don't have the inward facing cabins, and I was like, oh yeah, that's true. And then of course they put the big glass there so it was wide open for natural light. But the shows were amazing. The ice skating was crazy. I tell you what, I'll have to share a video clip with you at some point. When I go to these ice skating shows, I'm like, we try to capture footage, right? It's almost like whale watching when you go to these ice skating shows. I need to know the moment that the dude's going to do a front flip or a back flip, and I need to know the moment where the dude swings the girl next to the ice and it looks like he's going to bash her head into the ice. If I can get both of those filmed, I've had a good day. And it looked like the guy was going to hit the girl on. Yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you ever seen this in the ice skating show?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, but it was a great show. The ice skating rink is what I didn't like though is the way that you get to the ice skating rink is you have to go through the Playmakers Bar, which I don't understand that design choice at all. Playmakers Bar was nice, a lot of cool stuff to do there, but I couldn't imagine like at every showtime if you're sitting there trying to eat some chicken wings and play some foosball and free Pac-Man. All of a sudden you got 8,000 people walking next to you to go to the ice skating show. I don't know what the point of that was really.
Yeah, to me, it looked like it was just like a flow issue. I don't think, at the end of the day, it is the world's largest cruise ship, but at the end of the day, it is a cruise ship. So I guess there's certain, concessions you're probably going to have to make when it comes to spacing. I agree with you. I love the venue. I thought they did a really good job with that venue. But yeah, and the other side of it too, if you're walking through and you're trying to just make your way and navigate your way through the ship, it's a little bit of a disruption flow-wise to have to kind of reverse and double back and go under what's the boardwalk called now? What is it?
I think it's called Shoreside.
Yeah, okay. So
Shoreside?
Yeah, it's just like it's like the one thing that doesn't really make sense, and I agree with you with the new promenade. The great decision to let in that natural light. Now, I think it's interesting how it's a little bit jagged. It doesn't necessarily have that just straight path walk through type of feel anymore. That when I was walking through the Royal Promenade on Icon of the Seas, that's when I felt like, Toto, I'm not sure if we're on a cruise ship anymore. You know what I mean? That's when it really felt big and felt like it was a building.
You know what? You bring up a great point because whenever I go on the Oasis class of cruise ships, and now that I've been on the Icon class of cruise ships, and then I've posted some footage, right? Like do a little walk and talk. I've shown the inside of the cruise ship. I've shown the outside of the cruise ship. Inevitably, people are like, I don't want to cruise on a mall. I think I forget that I'm on a cruise. I cannot think of one time in my life that I've been on a cruise where I did not know that I was on a cruise. Like, do you think that because obviously you're not going to spend 24 hours a day in the Royal Promenade. At some point, you're going to go back up to your cabin, and you're going to have to walk sideways to get by the bed so that you can go toward the balcony. And then, you're going to have to deal with all of that rigmarole. You're going to have to try to squeeze yourself into the shower. I just don't think at some point, I just never was walking around on that cruise ship and all of a sudden went, whoa, Am I still on a cruise? I don't know. But sometimes the people in the comments are like, I could never cruise. This isn't what cruising's supposed to be about. I don't know, man. I think it is what cruise. To me, I'm a fairly new cruiser. I think that is what cruising's supposed to be about. So many opportunities. You know what they did? They smacked Carnival right in the face when it came to included food. So much included. Anytime that I would rank the cruise ships before, I'd be like, I think Carnival takes it with included food, with the guys' burgers and the Blue Iguana and the guys, the Shack's Big Chicken and the deli. Man, there was included food on top of included food at the Aquadome there. there, they have, basically a fast casual that had, barbecue. It had Mediterranean food. It had Mexican food. It had Thai food. It had a creperie. Then you go out on the pool deck. They got this other place called Base Camp. This got a smash burger that competes with Guy's Burger. It's got pretzel bites, which competes with Norwegian Cruise Line's The Local. It's got tater tots. Nobody's got tater tots. That's a whole new phenomena there. Then you go over to like down to that Surfside. That's what the thing was. Surfside. You get mini churro. Like everywhere you went, it was included food. And I really think they're making a hard play, to get the family business. The other thing that I want to say is, a lot of people get freaked out and say, well, on a ship that big, isn't it overly crowded? I'm going to continue to beat this drum that if you go on a large cruise ship, you're going to get more public space per person than if you go on a small cruise ship. And it didn't feel crowded to me at all. It was crowded when it was supposed to be crowded. I included some footage in my first video of a balloon drop where they said, hey, everybody come to the Royal Promenade. And sure enough, that thing was full, to the gills. The Royal Promenade, they, played some Van Halen music. They dropped balloons on everybody and it was crowded. And it was supposed to be crowded, but then any other time you were there, it wasn't crowded. So, I guess what I would say to people, whether or not they should try the Star of the Seas, is that if you're already uptight about it's a mall, if you're already uptight about too many people, if you're already uptight about anything, don't go on the freaking ship. I mean, we're going to talk about it later. How to choose. If this is true for any ship, if you have some sort of trepidation and you're waiting for some Johnny come lately to convince you to do something, don't do it. It's the dumbest thing ever. But if you have any inclination, if you see some footage from somebody of the Star of the Seas and it makes you tingle a little bit where cruises make you tingle, go check that sucker out. It was a great time.
I totally agree. I agree with the caveat that as long as you have both available, because I don't know if you're the type of cruiser I am, but the way I'm on it, if I'm on one of these new, all the bells and whistles type cruise ships, one of the newest, latest and greatest things that are out there with some new innovations, if I do 2 or 3 of those in a row, there is something in me that longs for the antithesis of that. I want to go back to the old school cruising. I want to go back to classic cruising. So, but then I'll do that a couple of times and I'll be like, where are all the modern amenities? What's going on? So I love the fact that there is a variety. I love the fact that you can take advantage of each type of cruise ship that's out there right now.
Absolutely. That's what makes cruising the best vacation is you do have a lot of choices and, from small ship, big ship, old ship, new ship. 100%. Like, let's just address the chicken tender in the room. Did you see this fight over the chicken tender? Now, I did hear your podcast. Tommy's the Always Be Booked Cruise podcast. If you want to hear Tommy on the weekly, you can do that. And then I am Lalita. We're just going to promote the heck out of ourselves because we don't have a name for this thing, so we really can't. I feel like Port and Starboard. But I listened to your podcast a little bit today, and you're like, "Come on, people, this isn't about a chicken tender." But what if it was about a chicken tender, Tommy? I mean, I've seen people get upset over food. I think you're saying there's some underlying issues, some, maybe some alcohol, some late night, stuff like that. But man, it makes a great story, doesn't it?
How about Always Be Loca?
Always Be Loca. That's right.
Now there's no cruise in there. We want the word cruise in there somehow. It doesn't really check that box.
We got to make it marketable somehow, I think.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So as far as the chicken tender thing, we know that yes, it was about a chicken tender, and I'm sure, I did think about it. I listened to your buddy Don talk, and it's like he said something that got me thinking. And it was almost like the way I said something that got you thinking. And maybe we agreed or didn't agree. When Don said, come on, you don't fight over chicken fingers. They're going to bring out more chicken fingers. And then I was like, wait a minute, maybe they're not. What if they're not? Because this is Carnival at the end of the night. They did scrap the pizza, and now it is a little bit of a midnight buffet scenario where it's kind of like have at it, go after it. What's out there is what's out there. And, if you have I always do think if, there's certain people like myself, I'm not going to roll around on the floor and risk my future cruising on a particular cruise line over a chicken finger. But there are people who will do that, but those people are the same people that will fight over somebody looked at you the wrong way or somebody, is in a seat that you were sitting in or, whatever blurred lines that exist in lines. They may think they got cut or something like that. They don't really necessarily have the decorum to avoid these types of things. So I think the chicken finger is the thing that set it off. Now, I don't know, those lemon pepper wings are very, very good. I will say that. If there was going to be a chicken finger that I was going to go to war for, it would be that. But again, it's just got to be, they have an issue. I really do think they have a complicated issue. I think I have a bunch of suggestions that would help. But I don't know. Where do you think they go from here on this?
I just want to say this. I know what they weren't fighting about. They weren't fighting about that thick crust pizza.
They were not fighting about any pizza.
They were not fighting.
Right. The pizza that's on the option that's left after the pizza place is shut down. Yeah.
That's the saddest pizza I've ever seen in my life. I don't know. You pointed out that, so I think maybe they need some enhancement in their security department. You pointed out that if you watch the video really close, you see a guy running for the hills. And certainly he did. He was like, yeah, no, I don't think I'm getting in the middle of this. But then as I watched the video closer, there was another guy that stayed in the middle of the fracas and tried to restore order. But the one guy was like, yeah, how much am I getting paid for this? I don't think. But you made a great point. Like, if you sign up. So this is what I thought when I was listening to your podcast. Talk about inspiration. I think, and unfortunately we can't get all the way there, I think that we need to get like a Patrick Swayze Roadhouse type guy. Maybe we can still get Sam Elliott because he's still kicking around. But I really think maybe you and I make a training video, Swayze style, to talk about how to de-escalate a chicken fight on a cruise ship. I can get the mullet wig.
What's what's rule number one in the Swayze school of security?
Isn't it be nice? I don't remember that. What is the?
It's be nice.
Yeah,
it's
be nice
until it's time to not be nice.
That's right. And then run like you're afraid.
I mean, just genius.
I don't know. I think, okay, so I think you can pinpoint, I think the data exists where you can pinpoint when these events are happening and at where. So right now you could pull the lever and say no more late night food. If you want late night food, we're going to ramp up what we're doing for room service. It's going to cost you money. We're going to increase our room service staff. We're not going to supply a late night buffet. You guys ruined that. That's an option. People will be mad, but they'll get over it because people are still going to cruise with who they're going to cruise. That may disperse the crowd back to their cabin, or it just may leave people hungry and disgruntled after a night at the club. If you're not going to do that, in addition to all the staff that you need to provide late night food, you're going to need a small army of security that just activates when the club closes or when most of the trouble happens, and you're just going to have to, hit the streets with, a presence. And I think also you're going to have to ban and fine people with a big number, right? Like, look, if you get into a fight, it's going to cost you 10 G's and we're going to pursue that in court and garnish your wages or whatever. You're going to have to do something where it hurts somebody one or two times financially to where the word's going to get out that it ain't worth the money to get into this kind of fight.
Can we stop on that one for a second? Because I want to get your opinion, and that always kind of threw me for a loop. How is that collectible? The collectability of whether it's 500, 1,000, 5,000, if there's people out there who just, don't have the car payment this week, I'm not paying it, or whatever else it is. Like, what is the accountability or ramifications if you don't pay it? I mean, are you going to get locked up because you didn't pay for your fine that was in some, let's call it, you can have a good lawyer that would come in. Who says this guy started a fight? Who said he was involved? What kangaroo court made the decision that this guy is convicted of having to pay a $5,000 fine? How do you enforce that is my question, because I know it's in place right now. The rule's in place right now, right?
Like, I think $500 or something like that.
Yeah.
I think they're just going to charge your credit card. Like the same way that they kind of hold you hostage with medical issues. I mean, they definitely get people's money for medical issues. Now, I would say, and I would assume that you're signing for medical services. So you are taking accountability. And to your point, nobody's going to be like, yeah, give me that $5,000 fighting fine. It wasn't me. But I don't know. Hit somebody's credit card. I don't know how you do it, man. It's a mess. Again, I think they may have to take the food away, which would be insane. Because if you think about I'm not saying every fight happens around a food venue, but I can think of several that have happened around a food venue, but I guess I think of several that haven't. I think you're going to have to up the security, or could you even shut the place down early? That would be insane. Could you imagine if only the casino was open past 10 o'clock or something like that? I think they would lose business, but is this the business they want anyways? I mean, we were having that conversation the last time. This does not help business, I don't think.
I'm gonna put some thought into it. Again, I have, this is my two worlds crashing together. Nightclub, bar, restaurant, late night type of scenarios where I've been in the middle of serious problems, and then also cruising, which is a love and passion of mine. I have some ideas, I have some thoughts. I'm going to organize them and we'll revisit it, but it is certainly a complicated issue. Carnival has my sympathy when it comes to it.
So what you're committing to is Tommy's 10-point plan for crowd control on a cruise ship.
Let's say, yeah.
Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's commit to that, Tony.
I've got some ins with the cruise industry. I don't know if I could get it over to anybody at Carnival, but I could send it to that guy from Norwegian, David Herrera, the president at Norwegian, and maybe he could work it through. What's that?
I think, yeah.
David Herrera got canned or he quit or something. Oh, okay. Well, okay. Let me take that off the table. That was a shocker when I was on the cruise because every Norwegian event I've been to recently, this guy was front and center. And I haven't even got to research it. I don't know if you even got to research it. I meant to look at it today on the internets, but he's gone. He's out.
Do we know that at least part of it that you alluded to before? Is it a canning or is it a step down? Because they're all step downs. With a little help, right? Sometimes.
I'm looking it up on the internet right now. Let's see. Cruise industry news. David Herrera out at Norwegian Cruise Line. Let's see. According to a filing issued Wednesday, his departure is part of a strategic leadership change. Harry Sumner, the NCL Holdings president and CEO, will assume Herrera's day-to-day.
He's going to be busy, huh?
Now they're conducting a robust search for a new president. That sounds like a letting go. His departure is a part of a strategic leadership change. I don't know. I kind of like that guy, but I've talked to him a couple times. But, it's wild. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the industry. I do love the cruise industry, but I'm kind of don't miss the corporate life, but we've seen a lot of great corporate leadership in cruising come and go, right? We had Del Rio go away from NCL. That guy was a character. And then, of course, Grandpa Richard Fain and Arnold Donald, all of those guys that were pre-COVID now gone. And then even John Pageant over at Princess, I think he got let go because of some of the challenges with the new Sun Princess. So I guess we take it for granted that the leadership's going to be there forever.
Tony, did you get reached out to from Richard Fain's representatives?
No, but I do like Grandpa Richard Fain.
I did.
Yeah?
Yeah, I got a representative from somebody said, would you like to have Richard Fain on your podcast? And they gave me a 3-page list selling me on why I might want to do that, why I'd consider having. I couldn't even read it. I wrote, yes, I want Richard Fain on my podcast. Of course. Yeah. She's like, well, what has to happen is I have to send you a copy of his book. He's trying to promote his book. So I'd like to send you the copy. Which address should I send the book to? And then let me know when you have it read, and we'll set up a time when you could have Richard on. And that was it. Never heard from anybody back again. Never got a book. Nothing.
Wow, that's wild. That'd be a great get. That would be like when Mark Maron got President Obama or something,
Yeah.
Granddaddy Fain on the Cruise podcast. It is kind of funny we elevate these guys, but I worked in corporate enough to know that everybody's just everybody. But it's so funny when you see these folks from afar. You're like, oh yeah. So I don't know why David Herrera is out, and it's going to be interesting to see what leadership they put in place over there. But it's ebbing and flowing. I don't know what's officially, MSC's been doing so much work lately, and I was on World America, which was also a really nice cruise ship. I don't know who's considered number 3 now. Do you consider MSC number 3 or do you consider Norwegian number 3?
You're right. It does seem like the big 3 may have been infiltrated. I'm not 100% sure. For me, the big 3 right now still is the big 3. MSC, I don't know. It's such an enigmatic cruise line. Because I don't think anybody, all right, so Royal Caribbean aside, because of how much they spend and what they put innovation-wise on their cruise ships. But if you're talking just sharp-looking cruise ships and sleek hardware, I don't think anybody touches MSC. That design is untouched, in my opinion. The way it's laid out, just so classy and spacious and functionally beautiful. I love MSC, the way their ships are laid out. There just seems, and tell me if I'm wrong, I would love to hear your thoughts, something's missing experientially about the MSC onboard experience in general. What do you think?
I think there's some truth to that. I think we're used to the way that Carnival, Royal, Norwegian, everybody else does things. I do think that MSC does it a little different. And I often wonder to myself if that's because they're a private company, that, the way it's so weird in these publicly traded companies, there's so much emphasis and so much concern about making numbers, being able to report to the street every quarter. Investors are always top of mind. Where when it comes to MSC, that's not true. I mean, they just have a pile of money from their parent company, and that's who they're beholden to, right? And so obviously every business in an enterprise is beholden to the customer, but when you got some money behind you and you're not so much worried about investors, you're not as beholden to the customer. And I'm not really saying that that's where MSC is, but there's something just a little different about MSC, that they can do things a little different. And I think since they can do things a little different, I think they struggle a little bit to arrive at what people want, right? Because they have the leeway to not do exactly what people want. So I think they're coming along, though. It's definitely a different product than when I first went on it before the pandemic. And I tell you what, the MSC World America, what I'm really proud of from MSC is you can tell that they went and they looked at a lot of different cruise ships and the way other cruise companies were doing it. And they definitely were inspired by some of the best aspects of other cruise lines. And you saw it, they have a big open promenade there. They have a multi-use space. They've got some killer entertainment on the MSC World America. So I think they're definitely looking and learning and trying to take stuff over. So it's going to be interesting. They go to Galveston for the first time in November, and then I think eventually we'll start to see them on the West Coast. So they're definitely making a move, and they're expanding with more ships. So it'll be interesting. Whoever the next president of Norwegian Cruise Line, they're definitely gonna have to fight off MSC, I think.
My little hunch about it, and it's totally anecdotal, but I feel like it's just a matter of, it's a European line, Italian line, and I think there is a little bit more of a demand from the America side of things to have that interactive experience with the staff, and a little bit more of like, okay, what do you got next for me? What's my next entertainment segment that I'm supposed to go to? Where, I don't know, is it the European kind of way of thinking to just be like, listen, we built you this beautiful cruise ship. You get on the ship and enjoy yourself. Don't necessarily break our chops to be entertaining you around every corner. We're going to give you good food. We're going to give you a beautiful cruise ship. We're going to take you some of the most beautiful destinations on the planet. What more do you want from us? We're going to get out of your way. That might be what it is. And to speak to what you said, it may just not be what the American market is accustomed to.
Yeah, that's a great question, because you worked in hospitality for a long time. A job that I had a long time ago, I worked in a fine dining restaurant at a resort in Nashville, and the restaurant was run by a guy from Holland. He was a Dutch guy, and he spent his whole life, all of his training in hospitality. And in Europe, being a server, being somebody that brings food to you, that brings drinks to you, it's a fairly esteemed career. And I think there's a difference, because in the U.S., I think that the servers are kind of looked at more as a subservient role, right? You're here to serve me. You're here to, be beholden to me. And I think that's a little different in Europe. And so that's an interesting thing. That is one thing I noticed about the service on MSC. They're going to serve you well, right? They're going to give you everything that you need. But as far as, kind of being subservient or all that kind of stuff, the play that goes along with it's definitely not there. And I do think Americans reject that, There's the weirdest phenomenon. I don't know if you ever see this on cruises, but do you ever run into people on cruises who want to be like the best friend with the hotel manager, or they want to be best friends with the head waiter? I don't know if that's an American thing or not. I'm kind of anti that. I don't need to be best friends with anybody who's like, I'm essentially on a vacation. Now, I don't want people to serve me either, but I don't need to know what, Oscar, the head waiter, is doing at home. Like, it's not, and maybe that makes me insensitive or something like that, but I do find that in cruising in a way. Like, I've never gone to the Outback and wanted to know what Brenda was doing on the weekend with her mom. Like, is she going thrifting? Like, I didn't care, but it seems like on a cruise ship, everybody's excited to know what Oscar's doing at home. Do you notice that, or is that a weird phenomenon, or am I the weird one here?
No, you're not the weird one at all. It's, I have some interest in Brenda and what she's doing when she leaves the Outback. I have, but the question besides that is that I think
we know a different Brenda, but okay.
Yeah, no, I think I've heard in moments where cruise line employees that have, been a little bit more candid with me on certain instances, they've said that, there's every time wherever they're going to cruise, they just know if you're in the American market, you're going to make money if you just tell them about your life. The American people, they want to know about where you're from. They want to know about how you got this job. They want to know all about what ship life is like and what it's like after we party. Do we do this? They just want to know this stuff. And that's what they want. You just feed them that information, and you're going to do pretty well for yourself. And it's some of them on there are very, very genuinely interested in having that back and forth. And for some, when they do it, it's strategy.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, of course, when I waited tables and all that you definitely want to befriend the person that you're trying to extract the money from. I mean, that don't be fooled, anybody. These folks are working for money, and that's what they want at the end of the day. As we were talking, it just reminded me. You ever see the picture of the people that take $1 bills and spell "thank you" out on the bed instead of just leaving $50 on the desk there? Do you think that's demeaning, or do you think that's just cute?
It's too much. It's as the kids say, doing too much. You know who's worse than that?
Too much.
You want to know who's worse than that?
Yeah.
And I'm about to piss off a lot of people out there right now, and I'm sorry. Yeah. $2 bill guy is worse.
$2 bill guy.
The guy who shows up.
I went to the bank and I got my $2 bills. I give everybody a $2 bill. That's the way we do it on the cruise. $2.
Thank you. I can't spend this anywhere. There's no slot in the drawer for this. It's the worst. It's the $2 bill. Don't be the $2 bill guy. I can tell you firsthand. What you think you're doing as being kind of unique and memorable, what it actually is hostile. It's the $2 bill is a hostile situation.
I can tell you, as somebody who worked for tips, as somebody who just waited for somebody to give me money for the job that I did beyond my employer, which is a weird arrangement. Anyways, I just want you to give me the money. Like, I don't want to go through hoops. I don't want you to tape it to a mirror. I don't want to have to look under the mattress. I just give me the money. If you got good service, just give me the money. That's the biggest thanks that you can give me. I don't want chocolates from Nana. I just want the hard-earned cash, because that's why I'm working. And that's the way I try to treat people. Because it's like, let me just give you the money, that's what you want.
And I think you were guilty of this at one point. I think I saw an episode with you with the Royal Caribbean employee that has his show and telling him what type of socks to buy him. And, I do have a cruise coming up, and the girl that I do know that I sailed with on the Sunshine, she's going to be the bartender on this. And she did specifically ask me for Doritos.
Yeah.
Look, and as ridiculous as I think that is, and it's like crazy, you got these, you're my server bartender on a cruise ship, and now you're ordering stuff, but at the same time, guess who's coming on board with Doritos? And me, I'm going to be bringing the Doritos.
I guess the point that I'm making, and certainly Chris Wong did give us some good insight. Ask the guy what you want. Just don't show up with Nana's cookies is what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? Like, your friend says, give me some Doritos. That's much different than you bringing some fun onions to them and go, hey, I don't know if you like this, but we love Funyuns at home. Here you go. I shorted you $25, but man, I gave you chips, But yeah, certainly if somebody says, if you go out to Puerto Vallarta or something and you hit the Walmart, can you bring me back some Doritos? That's a whole different thing, but people get cute with it. And the thing is, it's that main character syndrome, right? The person that's posting the thank you picture on Facebook isn't like, here's a cool idea for what to do for crew members. It's the look at what I did picture. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Look at what I did. I'm so cool, right? I did the thank you. We don't need cool guys on cruise ships. This is why people get in it. Just go on a cruise, just have a good time. I'm going to go ahead and rant on this again. On that Star of the Seas, every show somebody came in late and then tried to walk and sit in the front row in a full theater.
What? I saw that. I saw your rant about that.
What's going on? What is I got people going, hey, do you need a watch? I know it's the World America. Did you miss the time that I get it. When you're on cruise time, sometimes you're not going to make the show when you're late, but they need to put a big sign up at the back that says, if you're late, just sit in the back. There's no seats up front. Newsflash. People lined up 40 minutes before the doors open. There's nothing up front. I don't know why people don't recognize that.
One thing I love about cruising to the core is just the kind of like come as you are, go as you please type of thing about it, where you could just kind of float around the ship and you didn't know that there was a show that's going on, but oh, look, there is a show. I'm going to go enjoy the show. But thinking that there would be seats in there's no seats in all the rows that you went. The crappy seats are all taken, but for some reason the front 2 rows, that maybe there's something there. So 100%, you should just enjoy the show, hang out in the back, use the zoom effect on your camera because you're just trying to get the shot anyway.
Exactly.
And that's pretty much it. But I totally agree with you on that rant, 100%.
Man, what are you hoping to do next? When are you hoping to cruise next? What are you missing about cruising right now?
All of it. Well, I do have it's a 40-day. I'm doing the 40-day dance today for the Always Be Booked Pirates and Pier Runners Group Cruise Part 5, of which you were one of them. I believe you were on number 2. And
I know. Yeah,
that was one of the greatest. Every time I see pictures of that come up in the Google Photos, you and John, that was a blast. And just for those who don't know, I had a group cruise, and the second one, Tony just popped out. What were you, in the kitchen? You just popped out. I was like, holy cow.
You guys were sitting off to the side. I did come through the front door, but yeah, it was a weird move. Yeah.
I feel like you were. They told me you were hiding because I thought you came out of somewhere where they let you kind of no. Whatever it was, but you emerged, and I was like, get out of here. There's no way.
That may make the story sound better. I was in the kitchen.
Tony was in the kitchen because he was back there asking the chefs where they're from and how they're doing, and right. How'd they get this job and what's home life like.
Are you getting paid enough? That's a big thing with cruising, right? Are you making enough?
Well, yeah, they're going to save the world. They're going to write their letter, and meanwhile, they're the same people on the line at the end of the cruise, probably taking the gratuity.
Yeah, that was great, that group cruise. So you got that one coming up in October. That's on
October 4th, and it's on the It's the Carnival Vista, and it's going to Celebration Key, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah, I really want to go to Celebration Key, and I don't really like being outside. So with that, the start of the season, I did spend some time at Coco Cay, and I thought I was going to die, but it was nice. But I'm curious to see how Celebration Key is being executed. I know we talked about that a little bit the last time, so I can't wait to hear about what you guys do over there at Celebration Key. And man, your group cruise is one of the funnest group cruises that I've been on. So that I really enjoyed that. I kind of enjoy crashing the group cruise. We got one, I think, a similar time frame as that, going out of the city, going out of New York City. When is ours? Ours is the 11th of October on the Enchanted Princess going up the coast. But yeah, I was excited just to do the 3-day, but I already have the cruise blues. I thought I was going to be excited to be back home, but I'm kind of like, what happened, Tommy? I spent I think I haven't gambled in a year. And then I opened up the gate and said, I'm only going to gamble on Royal. And it had been about a year since I was on Royal, and man, I played some blackjack. Had a good time.
You stopped playing blackjack for a year?
Yeah, I think I quit playing for a year, man.
Just on purpose, or what? What was the deal? You just didn't get to it?
I was going on so many of these different cruise lines, and I was dropping a bunch of coin here and there, and a lot. I mean, you know how it is. Sometimes when you get caught in that cycle of gambling, you can spend a lot of money. And I was like, man, maybe I'm spending too much money. Let me only gamble not on land, because we went to. My wife and my brother-in-law and his girlfriend, we all went to Hard Rock Tampa. I just sat in the coffee shop. I didn't gamble on land. I said, I'm only going to gamble where I can earn points for free cruises. I'm only going to do that on Royal Caribbean. And then the last time I was on Royal was July the 22nd, 2024. And then I didn't gamble until like the second day. And I already get free cruises from them because I hit it hard last year. But man, I had a great session. I lost a couple $100 on slots trying to get points. And I said, why am I on the slot machine? Let me just go $25 blackjack. It was a fun table. Bought in for $3, cashed out 2 hours later for $1,000. So I cranked down $700 in that first session. Then I went back second day. The last day of the cruise actually was my birthday, but I had a bunch of stuff to do. I had to go to Coco Cay film, had to film the ship tour, had to go to the new Back to the Future show, had to go to the new ice skating show. So about 10 o'clock, I ended up back in the casino. I'm like, all right, we're going to do it again. Bought in for $3, cashed out for $630. You know a little bit about being a degenerate gambler. You get 2 winning sessions in a row where you win almost $1,000. You think you can win every time. I'm like, maybe I should start gambling in Tampa. I think I could probably go down there and make a withdrawal right now for $1,000. It's not going to work like that. But something about the way the brain is wired, I'm still just sitting here jittery like, I'm ready, man. I'm ready for some cards, man. Throw some cards on the table. We're going to play. So I'm still going to try to hold to that. I only want to gamble on Royal, but I don't have any cruises scheduled in September, and I have free cruises on Royal. I could go back on the Star for a week for free at the end, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll go back and gamble again. I love going out of Port Canaveral. It's the easiest cruise port to get to other than Tampa. So I got the Jones, man.
First, I want to say I think you did a phenomenal job, about as good a job as you could possibly do while making a point to run from shady spot to shady spot. while still giving a very detailed tour of that island. That was phenomenal. Appreciated that.
Toward the end of it, dude. Well, here's what really stinks. I had in my mind, I was trying to live conceptually out there. I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the 2 ships. I'm going to show you some beach. I'm going to show you some food, and I'm going to show you that big pool. And I took a brand new camera out there, and I got in the cycle where I was pushing the button to record when I was actually not recording. So I pushed it to record, which actually stopped the camera. And then when I thought I was pushing the camera to stop recording, then I started recording. So I have like 3 clips of my leg, which should have been the whole infinity pool. I featured the swim up bar. I even walked down into the bar, got water, had a whole hydration scene. None of that footage was there. Oof. So I had to cut out the lead up to like, hey, I'm going to find the pool. Woo! I said it a couple times. I never found the pool, but I actually had found the pool. That was the most disappointing. I still felt like I got some good footage out of it, but man, it was hot, dude. And like, I would just get in the shade and I would just look at myself and I'm just like drenched. I'm like, why am I wearing black clothes? I got to change my uniform for this island hopping, but I think I would have gotten the water. I think I'm warming up to the idea of swimming at these islands and stuff like that. That was the other criticism that people said, okay, so Icon's there the same day as Star of the Seas. You're going to drop 10,000 people on the island. I think sometimes people say stuff in a vacuum, like Royal Caribbean, when they decide to send those 2 ships to Coco Cay, they're unaware somehow of how many people it's going to be and they haven't accommodated for it. I think that island's ready for 10,000 people. It didn't seem crowded. So, anything I thought about that island, it certainly flexed up and held however many people were there. I don't know if 10,000 were there that day, but I don't think it's going to be a problem. And then you think about, there's got to be a couple kinds of people in the world, because I don't think I would ever go stand in the heat to get on a ride at Disney World. Like, I wouldn't wait an hour, now. I would when I was younger, but I've got no interest in that. And so I think there's certainly people that are going to be like, okay, so what? It's crowded on Coco Cay. I mean, I got my Coco Loco and there's a swimming pool here and who cares? And there's all kinds of people walking around that I can look at. There's certainly going to be people out there that say that's not for me. And as we went back to the earlier part of the conversation, if you have any kind of, trepidation about any of that, just don't go. But I think there's going to be tons of people out there that are excited to go be in the middle of all that.
Well, you're on a, let's put it like this. You're on a 3-day cruise on the largest cruise ship on the planet. Now, you're a frequent cruiser. You wanted to get some footage, so you don't necessarily fall into this category. But if you're Joe Public and you get on this cruise ship and it's a 3-day cruise, and chances are you've been to Coco Cay a couple of times, I'm staying on the ship. So you probably factor in the fact that, because in 3 days, you're not going to see that whole ship no matter what you do, or you're not going to experience the whole ship. So I'm sure they factored in that a lot of people weren't even going to ever get off the ship in any point at Coco Cay.
I agree. I really wasn't going to get off until the night before. So just a wild gambling story. The blackjack dealer was my dealer on craps on the Odyssey in 2021.
Wow.
And he walked up to the table and he's like, what are you doing playing blackjack? And I'm like, oh, Adrian, when's the last time I saw you? He goes, back on the Odyssey. He goes, you should go play craps. I'm like, I don't really play craps anymore. He's like, oh, I can't believe that. He goes, you love to play craps. And I was like, that is nice, right? So I do say I'm kind of anti everybody knowing each other, but it was interesting and cool that the guy remembered me from back when or whatever. But he did drop the nugget on me. He said, Icon's going to be in tomorrow at Coco Cay. And I said, well, I did not know that, because I had not planned on getting off. I knew I needed to film the ship, and I've been to Coco Cay before. I didn't know if I had a good angle on it or not, like what I wanted to even see over there. But then once I got off the ship, and I also bought, I regret not juggling in front of all these places. I like to juggle. I can juggle. I can juggle 5 balls poorly, and I'm like, I should be carrying my juggling balls with me. I should have footage of me standing in front of the Eiffel Tower juggling, right? Because that makes it even more unique. And so I just bought 5 or 6 new juggling balls that I was going to juggle inside the ship in front of that new Pearl thing. And I said, well, man, the the largest cruise ships in the world are sitting right here. Let me juggle in front of those. And so that was really the motivation to go out and walk around Coco Cay. And then I was like, well, let's see if I can make a video. But the short-term goal was the juggling, and I ended up being out there for 3 hours, almost dying of heat exhaustion. But it was worth the shot. It was definitely worth the shot.
That's awesome. With the unlimited drink package, with not necessarily having the 15, with 2, basically, let's call it what it is. You have sister ships and you have twin sister ships. This is borderline twin sister shiphood between these 2 cruise ships. Do you think you had, how often, what would you think the count would be over under wise of them having to, the crew, the staff, having to redirect people onto the other ship that they, they tried to get on that they didn't really know they were getting on. They got on the wrong one,
I don't know.
I could see that happening because that happened to me when it was Navigator versus Oasis. I did it. So I'm sure somebody's done it with exactly similar looking ships.
This is what I'm going to say about Royal Caribbean. The embarkation and the disembarkation process was some of the smoothest I'd been. The disembarkation morning, we left the cabin at 6:04 and we were in our car at 6:22 in the parking garage. It was just that fast. And there was about 3 minutes of being in line. But what was really impressive is they had a whole staff of people wearing jackets saying, "Can I help you?" And they managed the line like nobody else. "Hey, are you trying to leave? Okay, you go get in this line. You can't stand here. You got to go get in this line. You got to do this." They were on it, where other cruise lines, sometimes there's chaos for the disembarkation, all kinds of stuff like that. But I was going to say that's the same thing that was happening at Coco Cay Day. There was a lot of staff on the pier directing people where to go. So a lot of questions like, which ship are you getting on? So I think they were trying to help people, especially like you said, if they'd been drinking or anything like that. And then even the gangways, Icon of the Seas they were labeled really well, where Star of the Seas was labeled in a different way. So I think I'm trying not to be too much of a Royal fanboy because they don't ever call me Royal. They don't ever call me for anything, but they do it good. They do it really good. I was impressed multiple times. Also, their destination elevators were so good. It was amazing. Whatever AI magic they're using for those destination elevators, very little wait time to get an elevator.
I got a question for you, two-parter, if that's cool.
Yeah. Yes.
So I've cruised with you, and I've been on, private islands with you. I've been in San Juan. We bumped into each other, and I could say that it's pretty. I would like to know what your level of, how much is it set in for you? Because certain people, they grow up and they're destined for stardom and this and that, and they're just famous since they're basically early adulthood or whatever it is. For you, I wouldn't say you're Hollywood famous, but what you are is what I call cruise famous. And I don't want to put you on the spot or make it weird, but for that to happen, for you to, I guess, achieve a level of notoriety, and let's call it what it is, in some form of fame, in your 50s, after living all that time without necessarily being kind of like, is that kind of weird? Has it sunk in? And B, at this point, since it's still happening, I know it is, what's your level of comfortability with it?
So I would say I'm more comfortable with it now. It really happened, we had the shutdown, and the channel, the show got really popular during the shutdown. And I didn't realize how much I was known until we came back on that adventure of the seas in Nassau in the Bahamas. And on that ship, it was crazy because, it was the first cruise back, and everybody who were super cruisers, super cruise fans. There would be times where people would form a line behind each other to talk to me. And I really didn't know how to deal with that. And I really struggled to get anything done, because what would happen is anytime somebody would say my name, I would stop in my spot, and then I would have whatever length of conversation. And then I realized that, one, I wasn't super comfortable with that, having long conversations, because I'm a little bit introverted. And then number two, I just couldn't spend all the time doing that. So I think I've developed these tools over time to make it easier, right? I try to make sure that everybody is heard and seen, and that they know that I appreciate the fact that they watch the show. And that's really the place that I got to it. There were times where it was uncomfortable, and it's like the 80-20 rule. 80% of the people, it's probably, I would say probably 90% of the people are really cool, but 10% of the people are not. And I had to learn not to dwell on the 10%. I had to lean into the 90%, and then just also be able to connect the dot that the fact that people know me and they want to see me and they want to take a picture with me and they want to talk to me means that the thing that I'm doing on the show is being well received. And so I kind of use it as a validation where if I'm self-conscious, or if I'm worried that the show's not good, or if I'm not doing a good job on the show, if I'm not getting a product out there there that's entertaining to people, making people think, that kind of thing. Those kind of interactions remind me that people dig it. If somebody shouts out Ludacris from across the way, if people stop and dance in front of me now because they want to get up and have a dance break, it's very validating. And so, but it's still really weird because, you know, I'll sit here and I'll make shows, you know, say I don't cruise for a few weeks or a month, I'll make shows here in the studio and maybe I'll get recognized around town. But then once you hit the cruise ship, you're like, oh yeah, I'm that guy that everybody knows, you know, and that I'm not going to be able to walk around in public and people not stop me. And, but I don't hide from it. I mean, you know, we've cruised together, you know, I'll post up out in the public space somewhere and just because I want to cruise. Like I don't want to live in my cabin. I don't want to not enjoy it. And, I post up and deal with it the best I can. But yeah, I mean, you know, there's some people that are weird. There was a guy you know, here's where I really, my ego gets bruised and stuff like that. If I'm not looking for feedback on my show, if I don't ask you directly, hey, what do you dislike about my show? Then I really don't want to hear what you dislike about my show. You know, like some guy caught me at El Loco Fresh and he was like, man, I love the show. I watch it every day, but you got to stop that dancing. That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. That's so stupid. And I said, dude, like, I'm sorry you don't like the show. Well, I didn't say I didn't like the show. And I'm like, that's part of the show, man. And I get so many people that like it, but it's so like, I'm like, then I'm sitting there like, why am I arguing with some stranger about my show? Like, I don't need that level of feedback. So it's the weirdest thing. I still struggle with it that way, that I can still get my feelings hurt really easy because I'm still just like some dopey guy just doing something in my room, you know. But it's most of the interactions are great. You know, I guess I would say if you don't like the show and you want to be critical of me and you think I'm fat or something, just don't come talk to me, right? But I'm happy to say thank you for watching, you know, that kind of thing. It's a weird thing. I think I navigated it a lot better than I used to, but there were a couple times on this cruise where I'm like, man, why are you telling me you don't like my show? Like, if you don't like it, you know, why are you talking to me, you know?
It's the old adage about unsolicited advice.
Yeah.
I didn't ask you, but I do a show. You want to do a show? Do a show and don't dance on your show. What do you want me to tell you?
Yeah. Well, and then, you know, and then you don't want to get that way too, because, you know, it's the struggle, because then I'm like, okay, well, I need to compartmentalize that. I need to take that as criticism, you know, in a positive way. People are just trying to be nice, but yeah, I've had some pretty weird interactions, but yeah, overall I like it. I can't complain. Again, I think it validates that people like the show, but sometimes it is a lot, you know. One of those days I really felt like, wow, I need some time by myself, because I've just spent a lot of time, you know, peopling, you know.
Oh yeah, if I were you going through that, the amount of time I'd spend in the cabin would probably increase based on, you know, having to kind of always be on. I can remember when we were in San Juan, we were off the ship and we were saying goodbye to each other, and, you know, you were getting on one ship, I was getting on the other, and I could feel the people behind me kind of being like, you know, waiting to, you know, let me get out of the way here, because this guy wants to, you know, we were talking about iced coffee and whether or not we were going to go walk to Starbucks or whatever. And I feel this guy just like waiting for a break in the action so we could jump in and grab your ear for a second. It's pretty fascinating.
It's a weird thing because you know, obviously, like you said, we're not people that make cruise content and stuff like that. And there, obviously, you know, on that influencer cruise, though, there are some people that are really well known, like Karen, Nate. So, you know, people that have millions of people that subscribe to them. And so I guess notoriety or fame or whatever label you want to put on it does exist in tiers. Like if you think of like the highest level Hollywood type thing. But I think wherever I live in the notoriety fame spectrum, I'm very approachable, right? Because I guess I don't seem like famous enough where you wouldn't come talk to me. And then because of the content that I do, people know a lot about me. So that makes me very approachable. And I like being approached. So it's a weird thing though. But sometimes you go, yeah, I have trouble. I'm pretty good about extracting, but I do say it a lot on the show. And, you know, and people will parrot it back to me because I've said it enough. They're like, hey, we know you don't like to have long conversations. And I'm very honest about it, because I'm like that even like with family members. Like sometimes if you're talking to me for 5 minutes and I'm not that interested, I'll just glaze over, right? Like because my brain doesn't work that well, right? Like it's always somewhere else. And yeah, I try to, you know, I don't want anybody to have a bad time, but I just like, you know, it ain't gonna last long. You know what I'm saying?
Totally. No, that answers my question. It just always fascinated me.
You get recognized too, though. I mean, it's just all different levels of the continuum, you know.
The weirdest one, because it's always, if I get recognized, it's on a ship and somebody is in mood, which makes perfect sense. One time I got recognized at a Wawa in South Jersey. That blew me away. I was like, that's nuts. I couldn't believe that. Yeah, I don't even approach the level of what you guys go through. Well, I got mostly recognized on my group cruise because I was the guy who knew Tony.
It's a wild thing. My brother-in-law that's been traveling with me a lot, he's starting to get recognized, so that's kind of funny. You know,
Yeah.
Like where he works, people watch the videos and, oh, we saw you on the video, and you know, that kind of thing. But it's fun, man. Like, you know, I don't know how to describe it, because I love cruising, and I love making stuff, and I love cutting up, and I love the idea that I can make something that I can do for a living and that people like. The getting recognized is just another aspect of it, but I don't think you could do it and not be recognized. But if I wasn't recognized, I don't know if that would hurt my feelings, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, if people would just watch the show, it's good for the ego, for sure. Like, definitely it's neat to think that people know me, but if I could just get paid to do the show, I would be fine with that too. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. We were going to talk about, we didn't even get to a main topic. We were going to talk about how to pick a cruise, right?
Yeah, that's the main topic. If you're ready to go main topic, we can.
Yeah,
so you're a travel agent. You're a travel agent, and you on your podcast, you're like, "Hey, call me, and I'll help you book a cruise." So let's role play that. I'm a first-time cruiser. Hey, Tommy, I've been listening to your podcast. I really want to go on a cruise, and you're always talking about you got to pick the right cruise for you. What cruise should I go on?
I always say, and I'll preface this by saying I'm not a good salesperson in this regard. And I think if you really want to pick a good cruise, I think it's to your advantage, because you know corporate, you know sales. And what sales is to get to that, yes. Well, could you answer these 4 questions? This is what you want? Well, I have this exactly for you. But there's different caveats when you're going to pick a cruise. Okay, well, I want to go to the Caribbean. Okay, maybe you want to go to the Caribbean, but I got a Caribbean cruise for you for $1,200 when I also have a Mexican Riviera cruise for you on the best ship in the world that is, longer, and it's half the price. So, what that normally does is, now I don't know what to do. I'll call you in 6 months. So that's what you don't want to do. That's what they tell you not to do as a salesperson. But I can't help myself. I just want to find the perfect cruise based on the criteria that you're asking for. And I always say it's basically, you're either on a price-driven cruise, you're either on a itinerary-driven cruise, a ship-driven cruise, or a time and date with the right people cruise. It means you don't care. Me and you wanted a cruise. We haven't cruised in 5 years together. We want to get out to sea. It doesn't matter where it's going. Doesn't matter what we're doing. We're going on. So you got to figure out what the person's main motivation for going on this cruise is, and then you got to try to find the exact version of that. What they want. So for me, I would say, it depends on the season of cruising I'm in. I love ships. I love cruise ships. You know what I mean? So I always want to have a good cruise ship that I know is going to provide the right amount of fun for me. I am typically the type of cruiser who does like to really get the good times rolling after 9-10 p.m. So a cruise ship and an experience that caters to that is something that I'm going to be looking for. Carnival Vista, those semi-new Carnival ships, I think speak directly to that, which is why I picked this one. But, what about you? What's your first thing? If you're going to book a cruise and all things are equal, what's the first criteria that you're going to look for when you're booking a cruise?
So it's definitely changed for me over time. When I first started cruising, I kind of put a hard and fast rule in place that I didn't ever want to repeat a cruise ship.
I remember those days.
Because I was a cruise ship first person. Like, if the price was better and it's a cruise ship that I'd gone on before, I didn't care. I still wanted to go on a new cruise ship. And I think I was successful for like 32 cruises, where I went on 32 different cruise ships. And then what happened is I ended up doing that transatlantic from New York over to Rotterdam. And then shortly after that, I did a UK cruise, and it really blew my mind when it came to exploring ports. So I became a little bit of a port explorer, and I kind of relaxed my rules on repeating the same ship. I think it is true. I think for me, it's what I'm trying to get done. Star of the Seas, I didn't go on Icon because it was too expensive, honestly. You know, every cruise that I looked at after Icon was doing its paying sailings were, you know, $5,000-$6,000 for 7 days to cruise ports that I'd already been before. I just couldn't justify it, even though I wanted to go on that, you know, the newest, biggest cruise ship in the world. I was like, well, I'd rather jump back on the Caribbean Princess and go to the UK and go to 9 different cruise ports. So I think it's a phase of cruising type thing. I think, you know,
Agreed,
I think the hardest thing for new cruisers is to try to find the right fit. The reality is you do have to sample a few cruise lines. You're not going to know until you know. And the unfortunate thing is if somebody has a bad first cruise experience, they may not try another cruise experience. And so it is kind of important. But I think what you said's, you know, really keen. I don't know that people think about, okay, if I want a nightlife type experience, that, you know, club and being able to do stuff after, you know, 10 o'clock, I don't think people realize, oh, I have to pick a certain cruise line to do that. Or the opposite of that, if you don't want that, if you don't want to be hassled by nightlife stuff and you want the streets to roll up at 9 o'clock and then open back up at 5 a.m., is there a cruise line that's right for that? And there really is. It's a hard thing for me because I definitely don't want to be hassled. Like I don't want, you know, to see a lot of aggressiveness and stuff on a fight, but I do like to see people having a good time. So it's kind of weird. Like, you know, maybe Royal was a great mix because there was a lot of young people and older people, and there were people having fun all the time, and people weren't too cranky. And I kind of looked at that experience. So, you know, and even MSC World America, that was true also. A lot of kind of young, mid-mix kind of people having a good time. I kind of enjoyed that a lot more than like I've had some grumpy Princess cruises, not to put it all bad on Princess. I mean, I do love Princess, but, you know, if you're telling me, hey, you can go have kind of a fun time on Royal or you can have that kind of a grumpy time on Princess, I'm obviously picking Royal. So, you know, I guess it's where you're at in your cruising life cycle. You know, the more experience you get, the more you're going to hone in on what you like for yourself. But when it comes to picking a cruise as a brand new cruiser, you know, the key things are everything's not about price, right? A lot of times price is your entryway into cruising. A lot of cruise lines are going to throw up their prices and say, come pick us, we're the less price. But you really have to understand what the total cost of cruising is. Does that price include any kind of drinks, or does that price include anything? And some cruise lines, that's a yes. Some cruise lines, it's a no. So I think, you know, I guess we could make a whole commercial on why you should use a travel agent. But, you know, certainly the idea of using somebody that's booked thousands of cruises, that has experience with hundreds of cruises themselves, or 50 cruises, even 10 cruises themselves, the idea that person can guide you through the process, it's so important. But the challenge is it's so easy just to pull up a website and just click a few buttons and have no idea what you're getting. So I would just say if anybody's out there that's a new cruiser that's never cruised, most of the time travel agents, they don't charge anything for their services, and you get so much knowledge that you don't have just by clicking a button on a website.
Definitely. My first cruise that I ever took was on the Carnival Miracle in 2011, and it was a very unique situation because I did not enjoy myself on the cruise, but I looked around and made some mental notes on that cruise saying that if I knew X, Y, or Z, that I would have had an amazing time. And I kind of corrected the issues for my second cruise, and then from my second cruise on, it was off to the races. So yeah, what you just said as far as, you know, there's a lot in play. Big ship versus small ship, late night ship, party ship, long itinerary, short itinerary. A lot of times, you know, what port you sail out of can be an indication of what type of crowd and type of vibe you're going to get on the ship as well. While you were talking, I kind of got a solution, I think, for the Carnival issue while you were saying, I like entertainment, but I don't want to see the fights. Tony, maybe that should be it. Maybe the policy of Carnival, 2-3 people get out of line, they get taken to an onboard boxing ring.
Yeah, Thunderdome.
The Thunderdome, the Roman Coliseum, call it whatever you want, but we don't say that immediately, but you're on tomorrow night's card. That's it. You screwed up. You got into a fight. We can't have this. The family cruise line. You want to fight? Now you're on a boxing card. And that's that's something that's on in the fun times now. 9 p.m. The quest is over now. Boxing at 9 p.m. from unruly guests, and then do a casino tie-in, and you can bet on who you think might win.
Yeah, that's some real dystopian stuff there. That would be cool. Like if you could get people to sign up that says, look, we can impress you into a fight. If you look, you got two options, three options. You could pay a fine, you could do jail time, or you can fight. That would be that would be not to the death. I mean, that seems extreme, but fight to unconsciousness, or you could have them fight like the orangutan, like those old Clint Eastwood movies.
Wow.
Fight a monkey. That would be crazy.
That's kangaroos, things like that.
You wrestle a bear, all's forgiven. That's what
I think they should be actual boxing matches. I don't even say to the death, unconscious. There should be scorecards. There should be a ref. Should have a couple of cutting men on site. We're getting crazy now. I'm sorry. Let me calm down.
No, I don't think it's crazy. Maybe we could do the Chris Rock, Will Smith thing. So whoever the aggressor was has to like read a cue card and make alopecia jokes, and then just some random person would just come smack somebody. I don't know.
An onboard Will Smith. Don't make us call the onboard Will Smith.
That's right. Formal night. Everybody dresses in a tuxedo, and that would be interesting. So let's give out some tips. Like I think you bring up some good things. So the main topic here: how do you choose your first cruise? So obviously we're saying that some of the criteria that you could use. You can choose a cruise by price. You can choose a cruise by ship. You can choose a cruise by destination, and then you can choose a cruise by the people that you're going to cruise with. So those are the big four. So you're going to have to walk through that process. I say get a travel professional to help you decide what's the most important there. But then once you're on the ship, to your point, what I always tell people to do is that every cruise ship and every cruise, they have a daily program. And that one thing you should do to make your cruise experience better, in my opinion, is you should look and find 2 or 3 things on that daily program that you would like to do and get that either locked in your mind or saved on your app or highlighted on a piece of paper and just say, look, these sound really interesting to me. I should try to do these, but don't make yourself do them, right? I think you're going to have a good experience if you at least know. The worst thing is if you get off the cruise, all this great stuff was going on, you didn't know. So you got to consult that. But as you were talking about your first cruise experience, my first cruise experience, very unresearched. We decided to drive from North Carolina to Mobile for a 4-day cruise on the oldest cruise ship. That was a mistake. We were just doing it to try to get my brother to go on a cruise with us. Cruise ship broke down. It was not a great experience, and we loved it. But the thing that really locked cruising in for me was the fact that you could go to the comedy club and not pay a cover charge and buy 2 drinks to see the comedian. And my whole life I've been going to comedy clubs, and you got to pay to get in, and you got to have a 2-drink minimum. And I thought, well, this is amazing. I can go see comedy, and if the comedy sucks, I haven't wasted money. But if the comedy's great, it didn't cost me 2 drinks. And so I think that's really what locked it in for me. And plus, the casino was around the corner, and I got to see a bunch of people sing, Right Now by Van Halen, and they're still singing that on every Carnival welcome show. But it was amazing. I think that's what locked me in. What's some tips that you would give the first time cruiser to not have that experience that you had where you had a little regret when you got to the end of the cruise?
Well, it's my last YouTube video on the Always Be Booked YouTube channel is Tommy's top 10 guide to having your dream cruise. And I do think I deep dive into some certain areas where it's like, from embarkation, you know what I mean? How to avoid lines, which is a little bit of a controversial one that I like to do, but I like to show up late. If I'm going to be on an 8-day cruise, I know I got plenty of time on that ship, so I show up to avoid lines, this and that. Incorporate music, know where your favorite spots are. I mean, there was Dan, who was a cruise director on Norwegian. When I interviewed him, I love the way he put it. He just told me one time, he's like, education versus participation. And then I turned that into, one of Tommy's top 10 rules to cruise by. Number one, the main rule, make a plan. Plan out your whole cruise. Make a detailed plan, but then also make a plan to deviate from that plan if something better comes up at any time. So you know what you have in front of you. You know what is available to you to do, whether it's trivia, whether it's, cornhole, whether it's, whatever you like to do on the, the highlighter thing is real. Mark some things that you think you might want to do. If you get to it, great. If you don't get to it, oh, well, that's good news because that means you found something else spontaneously that you want to do. But the way he put that, education, then participation. Know what you're able to do, and then get into what you want to do.
Nice. No, I think that's great advice. Yeah, and I guess just the thing to say is, Just try it. I mean, there's so many people, I would never go on a cruise. The other thing that I think is important to say, because both of us, we do commentate on what's happening in cruising that's current. And I think it's a challenge with all news is essentially dealing with outlier events. You're dealing with events that are way beyond the normal. So we're talking about, say we talk about one fight a month that involves 100 people. That would be extreme. That's 100 people out of multiple millions of people that go on a cruise without any incident. We talk about somebody going overboard. If it's 25 people so far in 2025, that's probably a high number. That's 25 out of 30 million people. And so while it's fun and entertaining to commentate on cruising, to talk about the current events, and again, I think it's just trolly people out there that's like, oh, the way you guys talk about cruising, I'm never going to go on a cruise. If that's the way you feel about it, again, life's too short to be uptight about anything. So if you feel any trepidation about cruising, but if you're sincerely out there saying, oh, I heard the overboard story, or I heard the fight story, or I heard the power loss story, just know that those are actually outlier events. Certainly those things did happen to real people, but the odds of those things happening to anybody, any of us, I've been on 60 something cruises. I've never seen a fight. I've never had a power outage. I have been on a ship where somebody went overboard, but for most of the events, they're all outlier events. And I think that's important to remember, not to be sucked in by too much negativity. And that's true for really all the news. I mean, the news is just there to tell you outlier events and to get you hyped up, in my opinion.
It's a great point. You got, 30 Carnival ships that are out there right now, right? That are, as we speak, they're out at sea having a good time. And then they're going to come back in a couple of days and they're going to go right back out with a bunch of other people. So when you think about how many stories, even though it does seem a lot, and by, history standards, it is a lot, 5, 6, 8 Carnival fights over the last couple of months. Do you know how many Carnival nights at sea has with there being, it's kind of funny. Sometimes people get off the Carnival ship and they're like, it's weird. There was no fights. Well, when you think about it, you're talking about 5 to 7 to 8 to even 10 incidents, like you said, or 100. The amount of cruising that goes on in the world right now, the percentage is still very, very low.
Yeah, that's the tough thing when you come to solutioning the aggression or the fighting that happens. I sat here and said, well, you need to deploy a whole, squadron of security guards. But does that really make sense financially? You're supposed to manage exceptions. You're not supposed to solution for the exception. So if I'm hiring 40 security guards and 100 or 99 nights out of 100 nights, there's not a fight, then that's just a huge waste of money. I've solutioned for the exception when I should just be managing the exception. So I don't know how you manage the exception, or do you have to go, well, every once in a while, there's going to be a fight and we're going to just get, a PR nightmare. I guess they, somebody's working the math out on that. Like, are our bookings down? Do people really care? That these fight, because that's the other thing. Everybody loves to talk about stuff and complain about stuff and to speculate about stuff. It's essentially what we do for a living. And, but people are still booking cruises. So I guess that's the thing. If all of a sudden the needle starts to move and less people are booking Carnival because of these outlier incidents, then maybe that's something they have to solution. But if not, then maybe, hey, man, I guess a fight happens every once in a while and we hope for the best. Hopefully we can handle it.
Deterrence is a real thing when it comes to these fights. And I always say, you always talk about the big, bulky, ripped security guard that's really, he doesn't want to get his hands dirty, but he is deterrent, and that does work. And cruise lines don't necessarily take that approach. I'm not saying they should. At this point, I'm not saying, well, we'll talk about in the 10-point plan. But what I do know, and an advantage that there is on land when you talk about deterrence, is two more things. First and foremost, a lot of times on land, they don't get out of hand because of the fact that I could tell you firsthand, sometimes where do you think you get security guys from or bouncers from? These are not bankers, these are people with histories and past and stuff like that. And, a certain faction of people who get the $16 an hour to break up fights are hoping that they their talents are put to use. They want to mix it up. That's why they take on the job of a bouncer, is because and you know what? People, that's not lost on people who are at the club. They see a 280-pound, 6'5" guy who's ready to go at any moment, who's hoping something breaks out because he hasn't seen any illegal action in that way in a long time. That's a deterrent. That's a legitimate deterrent on land. And the other one is, this is what a lot of people sometimes you don't think about. On a cruise ship, if you're about to get into a fight, one thing that you can count on that you can't count on land is that person does not have a weapon. That person is not armed in any way, shape, or form. So your risk of liability or what could happen to you, you're feeling a little bit more comfortable about, the risk versus the reward here, because there's no knives, there's no guns, there's no little brass knuckles or anything on a cruise ship. That's for sure.
It's an interesting thing, and it's going to be nice if we could just go a couple weeks without seeing a fight. Hopefully that's it. We're supposed to be encouraging people to cruise. I took us down the side road there, but yeah, choosing. I think we covered how to choose a cruise. Yeah, I think we did it.
No, I think you have to know. I think you got to ask yourself that series of questions. When do I want to go? Usually a lot of times it's surrounding people's vacation, or from work. Okay, I have this little window that I could take off. All right, well, let's do it. Family's going to get together. If you have the family, you're going to cruise, you automatically know who you're going with. But if you're single or you're, with a girlfriend or whatever, maybe you want to go a guy's trip or a girl's trip, or maybe it's a bachelorette party, then you got that figured out. Okay, what type of experience do you want to have? And you nailed it when you said a travel agent will be able to help you. You can absolutely do it on your own, but cruising is a nuanced thing. And when it comes to what ship you're going to get on, how much you're going to spend, where's it going to go, what port it's going to sail out of, and even if you don't ask a travel agent, ask someone who's who cruises a lot, because there is a lot of information out there for you how many vacations you get a year. You don't want to blow it. You want to put yourself in the best position possible to have a phenomenal 7 or 8 day vacation. So there's people out there that can help you. That's what I would say.
Absolutely. And look, I don't want to let our time, this first episode of the Port and Starboard Tony and Tony show, cruise, whatever, go by another week without asking this question. The Margaritaville at Sea unlimited cruise card, is it worth it?
I like it. Margaritaville at Sea, I've always said it's just for people who are just obsessed with cruising. You got to really love cruising. Are we dancing yet?
I'm getting up. I got to stand up.
Oh, so we're taking us out with this?
Well, I'm not dancing. I just wanted to stand up.
Okay. Get up. No, so all I'm saying is that I think it's a phenomenal way to just get away. If you are, listen, the sun and the sea, they look the same from that cruise ship railing. If that's why you cruise, then there's no reason why you shouldn't go on Margaritaville at Sea. You got to manage your expectations. You're not going on a Royal Caribbean cruise. You're not going on an expensive, high-level premium cruise line. If you want to get away, that's the way to do it. Now they're offering you an opportunity for as little as $799. I think that's what it is, to be able to cruise unlimited for through 2026. Now, the caveats are, yes, you do have to pay port charges and taxes and gratuities still on every cruise. And I think they say that'll be between $120 and $160 per person. And you can't do it concurrently, so you can't go back to back. And I do believe, which I don't love, they got a 30-day reservation timetable on it, right?
Yeah, so I just pulled it up on their website. It's the Margaritaville at Sea Silver Paradise Pass, or the Ultimate Paradise Pass. The Silver Paradise Pass gives you unlimited sailings on just the older cruise ship. What is that called? It's called the Paradise.
That's the Paradise, yeah.
The Paradise that goes out of West Palm. Yeah, stress-free booking up to 30 days in advance. And then the other one, the Silver Paradise, is $799. Oh no, I'm sorry, the one for West Palm, $799, and then the Islander, that you get the Islander and the Paradise, is $14.99. Now, are you understanding? Say I buy that, then I don't have to name the second person, but I get two people for $14.99. Is that right? So if I have the pass and you and I want to go jump on that ship, I can put you down. We go do it. Is that?
I didn't get that deep into it. I was going to call and ask about this. I do know that, it is based on double occupancy. So I don't know if you have to name the person, your partner. I think that would make sense because maybe some people don't know. You'd be limiting it to couples, married couples, or people who live together or know each other intimately to be able to, have to do it that way. But I do
really
know
like
that
the idea of it. Yeah.
Yeah, they're also offering deep discounts on the third and fourth guest.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that you don't have to name I think I'm going to buy it. I hope you don't have to buy the name the second guest, because I know Jenny doesn't go with me every time that I go, but I'd love to be able to take a kid or, just that. I love the Islander, so close to my house, and it's a good time, and it's straight up cruising. It's really a fun way to get to Cozumel too. I'm not anti Cozumel. That's one of those places I've been a lot, but I found that there's still a lot to do in Cozumel, and I think I'm going to do it. The nice thing is you can buy it today and it's still good all the way through next year. There are blackout dates, that kind of thing, but not a lot of them. I don't know. But I didn't, I listened to your podcast today, and the consecutive thing I didn't really pick up on. So that's pretty interesting. You can't just buy it and live on the cruise ship. And the 30-day thing is a bit of a challenge too. So I'm going to see if Jenny will ask them if that's, because I like the idea of what you're talking about of okay, what is it? Today's the 25th. Maybe I want to go next week, right? But now I can't just go next week. So if I bought it today, I just can't go next week. So that could be a challenge. But
I do believe this whole package, this whole thing speaks to something that, they use the word spontaneous. They use that word, right? So if you're going to throw the word spontaneous at me, don't also throw a 30-day timetable in which I have to give notice of when I want to book, because that's what this is. What I do love about it is it's almost like it feels like it's a very inexpensive, almost like beach club at sea. A lot of people are members of beach clubs in their different municipalities and stuff like that. So I think this is an opportunity to kind of just be a part of the beach club. And I think there's a lot you could do off of it too. There's going to be Facebook pages who also has this pass, and all these people can kind of communicate and kind of, decide, you going the second week of May? We're going, we can't do that week. But we are going to see you on the first week of June. And then different communities, Margaritaville at Sea communities, can develop from this as well.
That's an interesting thing. If you don't have to name the second person, could you imagine some of those Facebook conversations? Hey, I've got the pass. Anybody want to share a room, with a complete stranger? That'd be weird.
We'll call Brenda from Outback. We can bring Brenda in.
Brenda from Outback. She's like, look, I'll bring the bloomin' onion, and it'll be a good time. Let me give the right information, just because I probably gave the wrong information. There's two passes that you can buy. The Silver Paradise Pass is $7.99 for double occupancy, and that allows you to go on the Margaritaville at Sea Paradise cruise ship, which is down there in West Palm. And then if you want more options, you can pay $14.99 for double occupancy. That will allow you the 7-night sailings on the Paradise or the Islander. I guess the Paradise is going to start doing 7-day sailings. Either way, the $14.99 gets you both of their ships. The $7.99 gets you the one ship. I don't know if Beachcomber, when it comes out, if it's going to be included in there, which is their newest ship, and there are some blackout dates. If anybody's interested, just go to Margaritaville at Sea's website, and they have you can just click on it and see what it is. I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to do it.
If I'm going to do it too, if I can find myself away from this chop shop situation. And if you do it, it's just maybe I think it's 12, 15 minutes away from the chop shop. Get your sandwich before you get aboard.
Everybody check. How's the chop shop going? Let's talk sandwiches.
It's going well. It's going well. We are self-sufficient. The place is making money in just a few months in. So, it's not making the amount of money that I wanted to make, but I do believe we're making some of the best cheesesteaks and sandwiches in West Palm Beach. My goal is to get out of there. My goal is to scale this so that I can have people doing it, and I could focus more on hanging out with you and doing this cruise thing. And hopefully that's going to happen in the next couple of months.
That's exciting. That's what I was going to ask. We don't have to get too deep into it, but just for context, Tommy is not only a content creator, but an entrepreneur. Started a really great sandwich shop there in West Palm, the Chop Shop. I've sampled the wares, and quite delicious, the food. But it's a pretty, it's the hard thing about being a hustling entrepreneur. You are locked in to that business. You got a great partner there, of course, but you are a little limited on your cruise time because of that, right?
Yeah, it's this entrepreneur stuff is cutting into my cruise time, and yeah, we're gonna have to fix that, Tony. You nailed it.
Yeah. Look, I figured out I have a ton of Royal Caribbean casino cruises, and I'm like, yeah, maybe Tommy wants to go on the start of the season at some point, but I don't want to tempt you away from the chop shop. That's what I'm saying, you know. So we gotta.
Yeah, I'll put down the spatula, the sandwich flip, the sandwich turner. I'll put down the turner for a week or so. Let's make something happen at some point.
You guys are getting notorious for those tots too, right?
Yeah, the tots, regular green garlic. You know, we don't want to infomercial this thing out, but yeah, green garlic tots are really good too. So. Phenomenal.
All right. So, look, we've done everything that we can do tonight. What we know is we've heard the voice of the people. The people said, look, you guys should have a show that's more frequent than every 6 months, weekly. Dare we say, if I can use your terminology, weekly. But we don't know what to call it. So, look, if you're digging what we're putting down here today, help us out. Offer some names. Maybe we'll pick your name. I don't know. But it's always a pleasure to talk to you, Tommy. And I always enjoy your perspective on cruising. This is the last time I'll say nice stuff, because then if we start doing this regularly, that would seem hokey every time. Hey, I really like you, Tommy. I think what you're doing is really great out there. But seriously, make sure you check out the Always Be Booked Cruise podcast. Make sure you check out the La Lita Loca channels. So, you know, we got to keep our regular thing going, but this is going to be our side thing. So, yeah, final words, Tommy. You close it out.
Well, I don't have any, but what I got to say is we got to figure that out too, right? Because every cool show like this, they have a sign off too, right? We should have a sign off, like we should say something, and don't forget. Because I say boat drinks on my show. You know, you say a few things, don't you?
Who knows? Every time it's something different. But I think we should say something. Shout out Brenda. Shout out Brenda at the Outback.
Big shout out to Brenda. When, you know what, I wanted to be more age appropriate. I shouldn't have said Brenda because you did mention the mom too. It should be more of the mom that we should be inviting on to the Margaritaville at Sea Islander. What are they calling it? The Paradise Pass.
In our scenario, Brenda doesn't have kids. Is that what you're saying?
Well, you said Brenda, and you said her mom, and
Brenda at the Outback. Okay, maybe Brenda's mom. Oh yeah, she was going to take her mom to brunch. That's right.
Right. Yeah.
All right, we'll take them both. We'll both get the pass. Well, I can't take a lady on the pass with me, but I get in trouble.
No.
Yeah,
absolutely. Shout out to the lovely Jenny B too as well.
From Long Island, she'll track you down. You know how that works.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for checking out this episode, the very first episode of this yet to be named podcast, video presentation. Do all the things. Subscribe for more. This is Tony, and that's Tommy, and I guess we'll see you on the next show.
We out.
All right, man. Bye.
Bye.